Hi, this is Peter. Welcome to Entrepreneurs Anonymous, where we talk about the challenges and opportunities of being an entrepreneur in South Africa.
Hey guys, my name is Nathan Smith.
Hi everyone, my name is Nandi.
Hi, I'm Felix Brendel.
Hi, my name is Heather Others.
Hey yo, what's good? It's your boy Lord Lucretius.
I'm a freelance videographer and aspiring documentary filmmaker. I specialize in event, brand engagement, a bit of fashion, and then music.
I'm a freelance photographer. I'm also award-winning fun contemporary photographer. Currently, I'm delving in fashion photography where I work with fashion brands, as well as model agencies.
I'm the divisional head of the laboratory by Tetrad Group. We're a brand strategy consultancy with a deep focus on audio-visual production.
I'm a marketing consultant and I specialize in social media.
I'm an artist from South Africa, specializing in conveying the human condition through poetry and arts.
Okay, so we're going to carry on with the flow. So the next topic is basically, we all want to be successful freelancers, and success often means a lot of demand for your work and the opportunity to grow. But that also then comes with the consequence of when is the right time, if any, to actually start bringing on a team and turning it into not a one-man or woman show, but a thing where you have employees. And how have you guys thought about? I know you mentioned you've got a team from the get-go, and how did that happen?
Okay, so with each person that's in my team, we found a mutually beneficial way of coming together where the value wasn't necessarily monetary, but by us merging forces, we could get that in the future. So for example, the guy that makes my cover arts, his name is Fall of Ozar. I don't pay him for each cover art, but because he's making my cover arts, everyone within my social circle is now coming to him as well, and he can charge them. So as opposed to just charging me on the front end, on the back end, he can charge 10 people, and that's the value. So in essence, each person in my team just came as each need arose. So I needed some cover arts, found a designer, I needed a producer, like to make an album with. He just came out of nowhere almost, but it's not that he came out of nowhere. The need arose because the ship was moving, and naturally every sailor who's supposed to help that boat stay afloat just comes to the boat, you know? So I would say like the worst thing I ever tried in terms of a team was to go for the people with the big names because apparently they have the connections and whatever. But it's not about that. Like the person that's gonna help you is on the same level you're at. So you have to look sideways, not up. You need to find people in your same like wavelength who are amazing at certain things you need, then come together where you're weak and they're strong and vice versa. And to me, I think that's what makes a good team. Also, having the knowledge of where each person's end goal lies. So like knowing that, yes, they're on my team, but ultimately this individual has their own prospects and own goals in life. And however I can help them achieve that, they in turn will be happier and feel not obligated, but the level of quality that they can bring to the table if they feel like I actually care about them. That just changes so much. So I would say, like having to create a team without a budget, that teaches you people skills, it teaches you how to network, and it teaches you that value ultimately isn't measured by money. Money can measure value, but the value you're actually gonna get from these people and that they're gonna get from you, time will tell. So like a team
like that.
Forms itself almost. Like you don't have to try
what you did, and I think there'd be some people in the comments that'll probably be like, "Oh, how dare you? You're not people paying people." But to be honest, I think that's a good way of starting, because you don't necessarily have the option. So
Yeah.
what you're kind of doing is pooling it together and saying, when it gets to that point,
Yeah.
like this is the agreement we have in place.
Exactly. And you would rather have a situation whereby you don't have everything you need and you learn to be resourceful with limited resources so that once the cash flow starts coming in, you're not wasting it on people that don't actually care. Because I've paid money to certain people and got a
Done job, yeah.
half-done job simply because they're not invested. This guy doesn't see my vision. I can't look him in the eye. This is like online. It's just a project to him.
Yeah.
But if you create a team of people, even if you're not paying him right then, he understands where this is going, so he'll go the extra mile without even being asked. So yeah.
But obviously, naturally, that's not all they can do because they also have bills to pay. So,
Exactly. And I think how you
so
can
they're hustling with you and doing stuff that pays the bills elsewhere.
and you help them by putting them in positions where financially they can be better off.
Yes.
And as a natural outcome, everybody wins. But it's just about understanding their value, where they're trying to go, how you can help them so they can help you.
So I'd like to compare maybe your business model to mine. It's a bit different. You make money kind of gradually as well, and you make money with gigs. With me, it's more like relationships, and generally it's retainers or project basis or something like that. So I had to figure out, which I didn't know how to do, and I failed at it a couple times. First of all, I wanted to make money so I can take care of myself, and then I also wanted to make some good money. And it was kind of like this pie that I had of money that was coming in from a handful of clients. And then I was trying to figure out what the threshold is of adding a person in that wouldn't just take a piece of my pie away from me so I can continue doing what I'm already doing. Because I'd rather die and suffer and burn out a couple more times than just like have less money now because I need that to pay for rent, for whatever. And when do they push me into the next caliber of performance, basically? And that was difficult. I think what I started off doing is hiring like freelancers, other random people. I would make sure that I had one-off projects. The recurring ones I would just do by myself, and then I would bring in a specific person just to do that. And the problem that I had with that is that it was difficult. Like I said in one of the previous conversations, I try to always encourage people to position themselves as an expert. And when you position yourself as a group of people, I think you add more value and you add more expertise. At least that's the way it comes across.
Yeah.
You mentioned freelancer, they don't respect you as much. I try not to have that same view of freelancers that I hire because I know what they like, but people are like that, and it's true.
Yeah.
So I always said we. In my website, whatever, it always said we. It was like this collective. And it sounds like kind of prominent. It gives the idea of like a business.
Gravitas.
And then eventually hired like a person with like, I don't know, I think I gave him like, this is long ago, maybe 2015 or something like that. Gave him like, yeah, see, I don't even know, maybe 1,000 rand or something like that, 2,000 rand. I didn't have more to give. That was like really, for me, giving a lot. And then we had like a desk in like another agency. They let us like just sit there and hustle. And then we'd just go there every day together. And I think from there, kind of learned on what it is and eventually, understood what it took to get to the next place. So I identified what kind of services would I offer that would allow me to charge a lot more and then hire people based on that. That's kind of been my experience. I think the most important thing that I learned is trying to understand what will push you over that threshold instead of just having you spend more to do the same amount of work. Because a lot of people feel good having a lot of people work for them, but that doesn't necessarily give the client any more value. So what do I do to be able to give my client a lot more value? And there's that saying, hire slow, fire fast. I think I believe in that quite a lot. A lot of people, everything that I worked for was blood, sweat, and tears. And then all of a sudden I gave that money to another person, and for them it's not blood, sweat, and tears.
It's a job.
So I did, I had no other choice. I paid people little and then gradually grew that, and that gave me that blood, sweat, and tears from them. But I would actually recommend that, like, start off slow, start off with a little bit, okay, you're good, incentivize. Because if you start off with, hey, I'm going to pay you, proper money, I think I would have the same experience as you. You get like a half-done job because it's not that the worth of that money is far different than the worth of that money to you.
Yeah.
So,
Definitely.
So I've worked off a different model as well.
Okay.
So basically, like, I'm not about also hiring people. So initially starting freelancing, you kind of jack of all trades. Like, you have to do everything. You do your taxes, you do your invoices, you do everything, you know, so you get to, but also then kind of jumping on what you said, being an expert in your field. So then people will ask me, like, to do graphic design. I could do basic stuff for them, but then I would collaborate with other people that I got to know and trusted their work and then vouch for them. But then in a way, instead of like employing them, we just did finder's fees for each other. So you land a contract for 30,000 and I help you land that contract, I get 5% of that. So we just had standard like contracts and whatever work we gave each other then. But it was like adjacent to my field, but I was an expert in social media, they were an expert in graphic design. And that worked really well.
I like
Did
that
for
camaraderie. That's cool.
Yeah.
like a few, but then you've got it formalized. So it's also, I think freelancers are taken advantage of, and I think we'll speak about it later. But like, you know, giving a product in for their work, or not, or like, oh, I'll give you exposure, and they're not paying you. So I never wanted that amongst people. So having standard contracts and having a fee, and you both agree to it, and you trust each other's work, because that's a big thing.
Yeah.
Because you putting your reputation out there by recommending this person.
So I think I'm quite similar to you. I prefer doing most things in a team.
Yeah.
It's just because it's less lonely and you can bounce ideas. But I seldom hire people.
Yeah.
So it's almost like
a boss.
no, exactly. So.
Yeah.
And I think the two things I like to follow is I don't like working with people where if I just did it myself I could do it better.
Yeah, because
So,
then you're wasting.
Yeah, it's just because it just annoys me. Like
Like, why did I hire
I'll
you?
go and land up doing it again anyway.
Yeah.
So I've also over time built up a network of people that I've done multiple in the trenches with, and I know they're good at what they're good at, and I don't have to then second guess the work they do. I think that's important. So then when there's an opportunity, guys, I need. Can you come and do some design? Can you do some marketing? Can you do some tech? Okay, good. We all in, handshake. Let's get this thing done.
Yeah.
And then we ride together. We die together.
Yeah. Why did you look? Because it's like.
That
sounds like a rap.
Sounds like a rap.
Collab's coming up right here.
That is I'm pretty sure that is trademarked by another rapper.
No, I mean, although I really like that because it's hard to accept as an entrepreneur that you don't have to do everything. It feels like this like scar or like this
Badge of honor.
Yeah,
like I've done.
I'm struggling so much.
My brain child.
I don't sleep.
I'm a martyr.
No sleep.
Yeah. And ultimately, your business perishes if you cannot show up to lead it well. So you have to be able to delegate good individuals who you can trust and look in the eye and know they understand what's going on. You know, so I think it is like a combination of both, finding the right people and also finding the right way to engage those people. Sometimes you don't have to pay someone 10K. Maybe they're not ready for that 10K at the level of skill that they're at. Maybe they need some reassuring words and a cool 500 to know I'm on the right path and keep going. So it's about knowing how to balance that wisdom with the human aspects and just navigating those tricky situations.
I agree with your guys's your hiring method, so to speak. I think having permanent employees nowadays is a huge trap because everyone, it's a trap. Because, okay, it depends. I think as a creative, for me, it's a trap because I can easily hire someone to do the job for me. If I know, look, I work with a huge team. I've got 4 makeup artists, 5 stylists, depending on what we're shooting. And I can tell you now, like, all those guys have got their own things going on. They will never want me to hand them a permanent contract, ever. My creative director, when her and I started, which essentially I think we all start like that, it's first contributors. We start with contributors and ultimately those people become people you can or cannot trust. So that's how I work. I feel like I first need to see your level of contribution, not just you being a graphics designer. You're a graphics designer, but what's your value add that makes me want to keep you? Are you better at logos than the next guy, than the other guy that I just hired? Or can you do it the same, just like how Peter said? hiring someone who can do your job is probably the most frustrating thing because you wasted your time and money, and it's just going down the drain. So
I mean, on that one, the way I think about it is that I can build a basic website on Squarespace. It's not that complicated and it won't look terrible, but it'll take me 20 hours to do what the guy who does this every single day will take 3 hours, and it's just not worth my time.
Yeah, and it's better probably. Yeah.
And so it's also the matter of some things you can do, but it'll take you long and you'll do it bad.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you, you mentioned just now hiring people permanently is a trap. I still don't get that. Isn't to be able to scale?
Yes, when you're scaling, yes, it's a good thing.
Okay, when is it not?
When you're starting out and when you're, personally right now as a freelancer, I will be ready to scale probably in the next few months. It is coming. Eventually you will have to scale if you want yourself to be successful, if you want your business to be successful.
Yeah.
But starting out, I've seen people hire permanent employees and they don't make that money, or the sales in that month didn't do well, but you're still obligated to pay your employees. Do you know what I mean? I feel like there's a certain time and space for everything. If you're going to start too soon where your business isn't lucrative or profitable enough and you're getting all these permanent employees and employment equity and quota and CEDA and all these things, and you've barely gone out to market, you really got you got it wrong. You need to test your market first and see if that role needs to be filled at all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So I think there's like two stepping stones, and I agree with you. Well, I agree and disagree to a certain. Well, I think we actually do agree. I think at the beginning, definitely to have that agility and to be able to eat, you can't be bringing on other people with permanent stuff, because then all of a sudden you lose a client, and generally you don't have even contracts, right? Like you don't even, I mean, that's something we really need, like a place where you can just automate contracts and send them out. So please get on that. And invoices obviously as well, but you never have contracts. It's like, hey, we're going to do this. Okay, oh, cool. And then like, how long are we going to do this? You know, and then they say, hey man, sorry, don't need you anymore. That's you losing a client. I mean, today we don't do that whatsoever, but I think there comes a point where you can then afford to hire people and you don't. So I think at that point in time, I would probably say, and this again is not financial advice, enjoy that money, hustle a little bit because you've worked for it. So enjoy it. Get the car you want, or the coffee machine you want, or the bicycle you want, or whatever it is that floats your boat. But then take a step back and say, okay, you know what? I need to stop eating, because what a lot of us do wrong, and I watch all of these YouTube series on how athletes lost all of their wealth. So they get paid crazy money, these athletes, but they chow all of their money on going out and crazy trips and all of that. Some of the smart ones, Shaquille O'Neal, Michael Jordan, etc., took that money and said, okay, let me not eat. So you got to have kind of like feast for a little while when you get to that point where you have more clients than you might need. Eat, enjoy. A month or two, eat and enjoy. Then take a step back and say, okay, it's famine again. And you self-induce famine. You say, okay, all of this money is going to go back. I'm going to go to someone, because what you're holding yourself back from is that curve going like this, because a lot of our curves is like this. But if you have a curve like this for the rest of your life, that's cool. And you can probably have a happy life like that. But we're here to speak about business, right? At some point, you want that curve to start accelerating at a faster rate. What you need to do is to start bringing in people, because that allows you to scale. And I think my biggest, how do I call it? My biggest success, or the thing that I focused on the most, was replicating myself. So saying, okay, what do I do? What am I good at? And I'm an expert, but I can only be an expert 24 hours of the day. And I don't bill myself on an hourly basis, but I need time to get this work done. How can I find people that are experts like me, in fact, even better than me, and encourage them and improve them in a way that they become way better than me, and put them in my position, and then put them out. Like, I want a factory of people that replicates me. And you can only do that for a while. Eventually you have to hire other people. But that allows you to then scale, because all of a sudden you have two businesses, because at that point you're the business.
True.
But if you have another guy, and then you got to be careful, that's a different story of, okay, now there's too many chieftains here. How do we get some soldiers and stuff involved that will do the groundwork? Because otherwise every single person is going to look at you and say, okay, now, you know, we know how much money is coming in, etc. I have some other thoughts on that, but I think that's a different question.
So what would you guys advise is the right time to start going permanent? Like for me,
when you,
Right now, I'm busy, right? I'm hella busy.
Yeah.
So when would you recommend?
I think it's a money conversation.
You know what I'm saying?
I think it's when you're
you feel like
enjoying your money and you like, I can travel whenever I want. I can go to whatever restaurants I want. I've got 10, 20, 30.
Actually, I kind of disagree because it answers the same question. I think it's actually a sustainability point of view. Can you sustain the amount of effort you're having to put in indefinitely? And I think you reach a point where working 80-hour weeks
You can't
kills
do
you.
anymore.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
and the thing is, if you are working those kind of hours, money is not the problem. It's actually like it's good. You have to hustle and you have to put it in, but you can't do that for a decade.
But you do have to, because sometimes you're working like that, but you're being inefficient and you're only making X amount of money. So sometimes people think working hard, like I'm working hard, I work until like crazy hours in the morning, and I look at that and I'm like, that's actually
That's
kind of
nothing.
stupid, like
Yeah.
you're killing yourself.
Yeah.
If you get to a point, I agree with you, where you know you're getting to a point where you can't do this like this forever, and you've got extra money at your disposal,
Yeah.
instead of putting that into like, you know, nice clothes
Yeah.
and nice stuff, and want to say, okay, let me take a step back because it's not about me, it's about my future. What's that? It's postponing gratification. They said the most early postponement of gratification was when Stone Age men or whatever saved meat, and they would use that meat to like bargain with other people. But to save it means you can't have it now. So
Yeah.
put that money aside and say, okay, you know what? That money's going to someone else now, and for a couple months it's going to be whack. But 6 months down the line, you've now doubled yourself and you're doubling it. But
Yes.
if you did it the other way and kept on eating that money, eventually it's gone. But I agree with Peter's point with looking at how fast you're going to burn out.
But another thing to keep in mind is perspective. Like, what are your end goals?
Yes.
If you're gonna just keep on being like a self-contained unit as a photographer, honestly, you don't need to hire anyone.
Yeah.
Some
Exactly.
people are
If you are-
That's the thing about photography. It's very much a sole proprietor,
Yeah.
more than anything.
Like, you could probably get a casual assistant, but if
Yeah.
you're ready to take that next step into bigger picture and open an actual
studio
agency
and-
or
yeah.
a studio, then it's something to consider. But I think the general rule of thumb is before you make any sort of like big financial like commitments like that, personally, I feel that the business should be around for at least 3 years.
Yeah.
And you should know. We personally, like, I love using freelancers.
Yeah,
To
personally.
just like put the money back into the industry, especially students. I love working with students because they're in university, they don't have experience.
They're keen.
Yes, but
Super keen, yeah.
also like transferring of skill, because you know that person eventually, when they come back, you know there's going to be that relationship that has been built.
and they'll help you somewhere else down the line.
Yeah, but always pay them fairly. You
Yeah,
know,
of
I don't
course.
believe in people doing work for free.
Yeah, a can of beer or something.
Yeah.
No, not a kind of shame.
Second shooter rates, you know how it goes.
Yeah.
But I think it's also definitely a perspective thing. Like, what is your end goal? What's the big picture? If you just contain, or not contain, I suppose that's the wrong word, but if, yeah, like I said, if you're just going to focus on being a photographer,
So
And for me, sorry, I think I'm like a practical person. So for me, it's just down to like budgets. What are my commitments, my budget commitments in the next 6 months or whatever? Can I fulfill them now before I take other stuff on? Can I pay my rent? Can I feed myself?
Yes.
All of that practically needs to be in place. I mean, I also had a bit of a mentor at one stage, and he's like, for rule of thumb, he freelanced for 30 years, and he's like, my rule of thumb was I have enough salary in the bank for 8 months before I do anything. Because he's like, people don't pay you,
Yeah.
you get behind on stuff, so like have a plan in place and have a buffer. You have to have a buffer, and then you can take those steps. And also like taking into account inflation, petrol, all that stuff, like just from a practical perspective. You know, sit down, take that time and flesh all of that out.
So I add on to that a tiny disagreement. Obviously, paying other people what you owe them is always good, but you do have to take some risks. So sometimes I think, you know what, buffer, no buffer, whatever. What's the worst thing that can happen? I go sleep on my mate's couch.
Yeah.
As long as the people are paid, like not paying
Yeah,
people, that's not
yeah.
cool. But if it means you can sacrifice yourself, take the risk. Always, I would
But
say.
I
always
want to ask you a question about paying them fairly. You made the comment. So this must happen when you're scaling. Is that let's just, for argument's sake, make the maths easy. Your hourly rate is 500 Rand an hour and you've got clients happy to pay it. But you can hire a student and they would be thrilled with 200 Rand an hour.
Yep.
Like, what is a good, like, gut feel for how much of the value that of their hours you're charging should be going back to them?
It all depends on the work that goes in.
Okay.
For instance, if they're just shooting and they're a second camera or a third camera,
And
they
not
don't-
editing.
no editing, no obligation. It all depends, but I normally try and pay them between 2.5 and 3.5 for a half to full day.
Okay.
That's a lot.
It depends on the
But
budget.
how much? What percentage of that? I mean, are you on that project? Are you billing hours or for a project?
This is like work done from my full day or my half day rate.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
Okay.
So because I feel like they're not actually contributing
That much.
aside from holding a camera. It also depends on the scope of work. If it's more like event-based stuff, I also let them keep the footage for their portfolio to edit with and practice with or whatever.
Okay.
Because from experience working with agencies, walking out of an agency, all that work,
It belongs
I'm
to
not
them.
allowed to use it
Yeah,
ever.
to use it.
So I feel
Not
like
even for your portfolio.
no.
Shucks.
No.
I'm sure you can show other people on your phone.
I would take all
I
those.
think you're gonna play the trust me bro card. Trust me, bro. I did some trust me.
What I think would also be really interesting is figuring out I mean, you mentioned numbers. You said 2.5 or whatever it is. I mean, it's a number, and you're like, whoa, that's like quite a lot.
Yeah.
I think it would be really interesting to hear people's different feelings towards like, what's the average thing a photographer makes a month? What does the average software dev make a month? What is an entry level? I think knowing that, I would be
Yeah,
interested.
okay, but to answer that is quite tricky because it's actually there's photographers and there's photographers. There's someone with their smartphone and someone with
Yeah.
a 100,000 Rand camera, right?
Somebody with a match.
There's photographers
Yeah.
and then there's professional.
And also
photographers.
there's devs and there's devs.
Yeah.
So I had like wasn't quite an argument, but someone was saying in one of my recent projects the dev cost too much, and I was like, the dev was a flippin' good bargain because these are good devs. And I know you can get cheaper devs wherever, India, but what you got out of these guys for what they put in was absolutely a bargain. And so it doesn't actually boil down to a number. Because a good dev, if you're getting it at 75 grand a month, that's good value for a good dev.
Yeah.
But someone else might hear that number and be like, yes, I can get a dev for half of that. It's like, you'll get what you pay for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a Ferrari almost. It's like, say that I was selling someone a Ferrari. If the price for that Ferrari is too low, that person won't see the value of the Ferrari, nor will they even believe it's a Ferrari. Because quality costs, and we all have this ingrained in our mind. High quality products equals a lot of money. And
There's always a catch.
there is, but ultimately, like, by not charging or by not seeing the value of your own products, you can put yourself into a place where
Yeah.
it's so cheap it doesn't
People
look
don't
as
respect
high
it.
Yeah.
quality as it should be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, he's a cheap developer, but because he's so cheap, the level of like work he's giving you, you're taking that with that little side notes of
Yeah, I should
no.
probably check the work.
Exactly. Compared to if you paid the full price. So sometimes it's about your own peace of mind,
Yes.
honestly speaking. Like
I mean-
if you pay for half the job, you get half the job.
Entrepreneurs Anonymous is proudly brought to you by Craft. Craft builds solutions for freelancers by freelancers.